I'm now at couplings, yeah, number four. And here's more of the sort of crazy, funny stuff. I mean, these are some of the best scenes. Sellers is so good in every scene he inhabits. But he realizes that things are coming apart, and he's been looking for his chance, and he sees his chance. He's like, oh yeah, yeah. He's like, aha, yes, this is, I might be able to get in here and send the code off. He doesn't see Ripper. He doesn't see that Ripper's going to commit suicide. But that's a standard answer to nuclear commanders. I mean, many nuclear commanders have said they would commit suicide after they'd fired their weapons. It's one of those interesting things because they understand. It's like the world is finished. In one film, oh man, I'm trying to remember what it is. Not by Dawn's Early Light, but the people at a nuclear base fire the weapons, and then they get out of the base because they're trying to get home in time to say goodbye. Um, but the bases would be closed. I mean, people would be shot leaving. Anyway, okay, so Mandrake says, oh, and he's trying to reassure Ripper enough to give him the code so he can recall the wing, and he says, feed me, Jack. You said it. I fed you. So there's this incredible sort of homosexual closeness, and they're physically very close, and Kubrick really is like, he's right up in, there have been these incredible shots of, from below, of everybody has their oral fixations. Here's Jack the Ripper with his huge cigar, and there's Buck Turgidson, chewing gum obsessively and offering it to Jack Creeley, plays Staines, and he's like, no, I don't need that because I don't have an oral fixation. Kubrick was a Freudian. I mean, he was a Jungian, as a Freudian. He was reading the stuff that people read in the '60s. He was a very well read man and a very bright guy. I mean, just yeah, there's just a genius about these films, and he was putting these kinds of things in, so people were like, that's an oral fixation. It's like, that's right. There is this need to feed, essentially. So these are children who haven't grown up because they miss the breast, and so they're, in the case of Ripper, he's got this massive cigar which looks like a penis, and that's how Kubrick shoots it, and it's this incredibly sort of erotic. There are the erotics of this shot, where it's all sensual. That's the sensuousness, and then there's as I say, there's Turgidson with his obsessive gum chewing, which gets more and more, as the sort of the hotter the war gets, the more he needs to chew gum because he's missing the nipple. It's like, oh, bring me the breast. And then Turgidson has this call with Miss Scott. I told you never to call me here, which is a thing that doesn't really happen anymore because of phones just being ever present. And but getting a call at the office from the wife, or the mistress in this case, was forbidden. I mean, it's not something you were supposed to do. And so you're, baby, I told you never to call me here. This is sort of this. But here he is. My president needs me. And then he tells her, but sure, don't forget to say your prayers, because he knows what's going to happen. He knows there's going to be a nuclear war, and she's going to be killed, and she's not going to have a chance to be shriven. That is to be confessed if she's Catholic. So again, he's a believer, right? And this is why he calls the premier degenerate atheist. So he really is a believer, and so here are these Christians who are in charge of the nuclear arsenal, and they're prepared to use it, but they call themselves Christians, and how does this compute? There's nothing in the New Testament that would in any way, except for, I suppose, St. Paul, that would in any way give you the belief that Christ ever said anything about using nuclear weapons to end the world. It's like, no, that wasn't part of the deal. Not as far as the New Testament I read. I don't know what everybody else read. Yeah, whatever.